Thank you. Okay, what I had just done, you can't see that on the camera, is what would you call this? It's a piece of lumber that I use to reach the top up here to either turn the projector on or slide the viewing glass or the door in front of that. That puts it in sleep mode. But what is it that you can tell me about that piece of lumber?
Probably pretty good.
What was your first impression when you grab that?
It's not sanded.
No. Is that light what you would think? Does it feel dense?
Feels kind of moist.
Shouldn't be. I mean, it's been in this classroom for a long time. No. But the reason I say that is this is not from your typical 2x6. Okay? And one of the reasons for that is if this is quite dense, which it is, okay? If a person took a piece of number 2 pine, okay, and if they were to take a swing and hit the wall, this is probably going to do what? It's going to shatter. Why would that be with pine? Yeah, could be. It's a soft wood, okay? Well, maybe if you use a different type of saw, whether it's table saw or skill saw, jigs, any one of those that create sawdust. But since this is dense, okay, what can you infer from that? Not being pine, but rather what?
Oak.
Could be oak, but not likely. Probably a type of ash or maple, okay? And when you look at the cross section of this, does this look like this came from a tree that had lots of good years?
No.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
No, because it got cut down.
Yes.
Yes.
So a lot of you who are saying yes, why would you say yes? Okay, the annual rings here are actually spread out quite a bit. Yes. Yes. Okay. So I think there's a lot of things you could say. They don't make things the way they used to. I know with lumber, a lot of it is not nearly as dense as it used to be. One of the reasons for that is, I know the funny answer, you're going to say, well, it comes from the lumber yard, okay? But when you look at, if you want to call it a housing explosion, where is all this lumber coming from?
Trees.
True. I know it's coming from trees, but where are they coming from? The Pacific Northwest? Is it in Canada or, which is the Pacific what? Northwest. Yeah, that's what we consider Oregon being. But when it comes to building a house, are trees really a renewable resource? They can be, but the reason that we say that lumber or this type of wood that you might use, it's not like it used to be, because now a lot of wood might be poplar, and pine is quite common. But one of the reasons that poplar might be utilized is because it grows so fast. So in order to replenish trees that were taken out for this housing explosion, that has to be replenished, and seems like poplar is perhaps maybe one of the most common trees to use for that. And even when it comes to Christmas time, well, Christmas, you could say days after Thanksgiving, if you are a tree type person, are you an artificial tree person or a real tree person? Okay, so if you were to start your own tree farm, there's one down by Canton, which is Highway 11, which is south and little east of Sioux Falls. Okay? If you had decided to start a Christmas tree farm in the year 2023, your first harvest, approximately when do you think?
2025, 2027. October, November.
2030. 2030.
Holy cow, you giving these trees steroids or what?
2042.
42 might not be too far off. I'm thinking 16 years. It may take 10 to 16 years to actually have a tree go from a seedling to one that you can actually cut down. Now you got to take into account, we're not looking at some of these tall trees that you would cut down for the lumber industry. I don't know if there's a specific height. I would think it's got to be everything of 8 feet, I would think, because when you cut that off at 8 feet, you don't want all of that stem in there either, so you might have to cut it a little shorter. So that's when we say 8 feet, maybe 18 inches comes off the bottom, so that gives you approximately 6.5 feet. I think. Depends how many acres you have, because that's something that you might want to figure out. That's probably a mathematical formulated problem that if you put them too far apart, the trees will grow just fine, but you might not get your money back because you're not growing enough. You put them too close together, well, it's not that they're going to hook up, they're going to start stealing nutrients from one another. So that might be something that you would have to consider if you're going to go into that business. I suppose I would think that if you just had 1 acre, I would 50 maybe? I don't know. It's a good question. One of the aspects I always like to give as a trick question, okay? If you are going to, you might refer to a field, oh, I'm going up to the north quarter, okay? Is that 25 acres? Because it's a quarter. It's a quarter of a section. How many acres are in a section? 640. So a quarter of 640 is 160. Did you do the math in your head, or you knew that? Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Just a little. I don't know if that's interesting facts. I just thought about that when I picked this up, that this is actually a pretty type of dense wood. I think this could possibly do some damage if you wanted to swing this around and hit someone over the head with it. Okay? All right. So this is where we left off. The 2 types of tissues responsible for moving water and nutrients. No. Meristems just means a rapid growth of tissues. Xylem and phloem. Okay? So this is where we left off. This is where we approximately begin. Okay? Oh, you have that. Good. Maybe you have this too. Okay. Again, I know plants, maybe in your opinion, are not that interesting. I would find hard pressed to disagree with you. But oddly enough, some of you might be considering being a biology major in college. Okay? Biology major is quite vague. That individuals may be going into science education, or they might even be going into a type of pre-professional program. And I would think that that biology major would include botany. You can say, I'm not going to study plants. Well, I don't think you have a choice in that matter. Okay? It could be such a thing. That is a required class.
But you do have the choice to go for biology.
But you do have the choice of going for a biology major. Even, I could be wrong, if you are going to a technical school, you may still have to take a biology class. I think there's something to that. That's more so of a Mrs. Milbrandt or a school counselor question, as opposed to myself. But I think that would have to be pretty accurate, probably even a math class. Okay? So when we look at this fibrous root system, okay, whether it is a tap root or whether it's a fibrous root, what can you infer about the functions of roots? There's more than one. Well, they don't take in well, they can if they take in water.
Structure.
I don't think they're going to hold the plant up. Might keep it from tipping over, which is just the opposite. So if it doesn't tip over, it must be doing what?
Tipping up.
Yeah, it anchors it into the ground, okay? And I remember Old 77 going south off of Highway 34. There is, or was, a farmer there that's got lots of Angus cattle in this pasture now. It's covered with snow. But at one time, I think what had happened is this individual decided to plant something into the ground to break it up because maybe it was getting compacted. And I think some of you had already said the answer, but what might that be? Why could it be radishes? Well, yeah, I understand it's a cover crop because it's a taproot, and that taproot's function is it going to be small or is it going to be big? Okay, it's going to bust up the soil. So that's why people is there even a market for radishes? You say it's a cover crop, but what do you do with them after you pick them?
The cows will like cow them up and chew on them.
Okay. I'm not debating that. I know sometimes obviously that's got to be safe. Maybe it's pigs you got to be careful with because there's certain types of poison in rhubarb leaves that is very toxic to pigs. So you never want to do that. Okay? All right. So when we talk about root structures, many of these are adapted for several functions. They can absorb water. Now we said absorb nutrients. It's not that you're totally wrong, but when we think nutrients, it's more so sugar probably. Okay? But yes, the roots can absorb nutrients. If you plant soybeans, you harvest your soybeans, your corn is ready to go next year. Why? Soybeans do something very unique. Oh, they will replenish the soil with nitrogen. Corn does not do that. So that's one advantage of rotating your crops. Okay? So when you say that roots absorb nutrients, yeah, that's half right. It's absorbing nitrogen for the next growing season. Okay. So those tap roots, okay, whether it's carrots, not sweet potatoes, sugarcane maybe, and radishes, very tough root cap they have on there that is going to keep pushing down and breaking up that soil. Of course, I don't know how efficient it is. I think it would have to be some sort of time-lapsed, way to look at. No, not multiple years. Maybe, I'm going to say multiple months, probably no more than 3. I'm not quite sure. But there's obviously a reason to do that, or else farmers would not do that. I don't know how common it is, but you'd already said radishes and you feed it to the cattle, so how common is it? Has your family done it?
No, but I know a few people who do. Did it one time.
Okay. So what do? You take the plow out there, or you got to pluck it out of the ground somehow.
Yeah, he's just working. He puts his brother out there, makes him dig it up one by one.
Okay.
About a year and a half to get them all. He put 80 water bells out there.
Well, wouldn't it go twice as fast with 2 people?
Well, he doesn't have the work ethic, so he
2.5 times.
Okay. Well, call some of your friends.
None of his friends have good words that day.
Okay.
I'm usually pretty busy at that time.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have any friends.
Okay. How we're getting into the stems, which means we're almost done. Okay? That might be the last one. It is, okay? We got to talk about bud yet, but anyway. Okay? So without any further inference, okay, look at what this says, okay? Have more complex structures than roots do. Why would that possibly be? Because one thing to think about, the stem is the highway. So something's going up, something's going down. So what would be going up? Water from the roots through the stems to the leaves, okay? Then from the leaves, you've got nutrients and sugars going back down from the leaves to the roots, but through the stems. So with that, there's a lot more complex structures than what roots do because their main function is absorbing water. Okay? Yeah, it's going to grow, but its main function is to absorb water and anchor it to the ground. Okay? So it says grow at the tips and in circumference. So is that apical meristems or lateral meristems? Why are you right? Because it's going to the out or to the sides. That's right. So the apical meristem tissue in roots, okay, is going to be at the tip going down. Okay? All right.
We have one left.
Just bud. Yeah. So we will get to that tomorrow. But I want to make sure that we wrap up this apple video, so we will catch up to you next time.